This content is sponsored by Pops, which lets you create super unique video and 3D prints right from your iPhone. Hey, it's Chris. Podcasts used to be a thing, and then it sort of fell off. People kind of forgot about it, and now it seems like it's making a huge comeback. So I've been putting a lot of thought into this, and it's like, how can I get the most out of the podcasts that I'm listening to, that I want to enjoy? How do I make that experience as good as possible? This set me off on a search for the best podcasting app. And you get to enjoy the benefits of all my research right now. I'm going to kick things off with a brand new app called Listen, which describes itself as the most beautiful podcast app. And actually, I'm pretty inclined to agree. Some podcast apps, maybe even most, just don't look great, but Listen is like eye candy, even though it's for your ears. The queue management is amazing. The new episodes section lists, what else? New episodes by day instead of giving you just an endless list, and then you can swipe left on an episode to add it to the top or bottom of your queue. I also really like the way you can change how shows are sorted in your library. Recently updated, most listened, alphabetical, etc. And the now playing screen is very cool, very different, very pretty. And if you swipe up on it, you'll see your queue, which you can then drag and drop to rearrange. There aren't a ton of fancy features here like you'll find in some of the more well-known podcasting apps, but you can at least increase your speed up to 3 times while listening. When I was getting Listen set up, I really appreciated that there was an import feature that tried to grab my podcast subscriptions from Apple's app. Unfortunately, it only found like 10 of my 20 plus subscriptions, but I guess that still saved me some time in the long run. And something that nobody is going to argue about here is that this app is free, as in free with no ads. How are they making money? I really don't know, but no price tag and no subscriptions, at least for now. Basically, the Listen app just nailed the interface. It's gorgeous, it's simple, it's intuitive, and there's no better combination than that. Something the creator of this app purposefully did was make sure you could operate things one-handed. So unlike other apps, the play button is actually within reach of your thumb, and there's lots of gestures. If you tap on Find Something New at the top of your library, you'll also get a gorgeous and well-organized search and discover page that has some top picks, some new podcasts, a trending section, and a list of topics that you can just browse. This app, in my mind, is very nearly perfect, and I would switch to it immediately, but there's one major thing that's kind of missing for me, and that's cross-platform support. Listen is only available on your iPhone right now, but if it ever expands to the Apple Watch and to CarPlay, and if it can add a few of those more advanced features, then it would be just about perfect. The next super innovative podcasting app that I want to share with you guys is called Breaker. It's also brand new, and it's a social podcast app, which is kind of its big thing. So when you sign up, you can sign up with Twitter, for instance, and you can see what your friends are listening to. And there's kind of this cool inbox feature that lets your friends send you episodes that they think you're gonna like, which is pretty cool, theoretically. But even I, who am pretty active on Twitter and have nearly 20,000 Twitter followers, there was only 6 people that I followed on Twitter who were in this app. But even that small number was good for discovery because I could then see what podcasts people like my bro Renee Ritchie were subscribed to. And that helped me find a few new favorites. It's also pretty interesting to see the activity of friends, so I can see specific episodes that they're listening to and also who they're following, which in turn is kind of like a rabbit hole, and you can just keep following it and discovering more stuff. I will say though that I recommend turning off the notifications because as soon as I joined, I had like 36 notifications of people who had followed me, both iOS and email notifications. The library, which is where you'll find your playlist, it didn't blow me away, and it isn't really my favorite way of digging through queued up content. But this app was actually designed to move away from subscriptions in the first place and to concentrate more on personalized and social discovery. So in a way, I guess that kind of makes sense. Okay, so that being the case, I did head back to the activity feed and found some new people that some friends had followed, and that did lead to some new discoveries. I found some new interesting podcasts that way. The now playing screen, it's okay. There's a sleep timer, you can set a custom speed, and you can save that speed preference per show. You can skip silences to make things go faster, so it does have at least some of those advanced features. On the now playing screen, there's also some social components, like the ability to heart, comment, and send an episode to your friend's inbox. One thing that's really cool here is the landscape mode. This is the only podcast app I've ever heard of that has a landscape mode. mode. So if you're in another app in landscape mode and you come back to this app, then you don't have to rotate your phone. So that could be a killer feature for some people. Other than the awesome landscape mode though, the rest of the design is just okay to me. It's functional, but I wouldn't call it beautiful. If you do really like the social component of this app, then it might be kind of a bummer that it's only available on iOS right now. Of course, in the future, I'd love to see that expand to the rest of the Apple Galaxy. Next up, we're gonna check out Brew, which is another brand new app that I really doubt you've ever heard of, and it's really geared towards supporting podcast creators. So it's kind of like the Netflix for podcasts, at least that's sort of how it's been described. And what that means is you pay a fee every month, I'll get to that in just a second, which gets distributed based, I think, on the content that you consume. Also, like Netflix, Brew is developing some original content that you're not gonna find anywhere else, like the Mad Dad Show from YouTuber Jack Vale, which features him and his daughter talking about stuff together. So yeah, this is kind of a different approach to a podcasting app. The fee is $4.99 a month, and there's a free trial so you can see if it's worth it to you. But really, until they build up a huge library of exclusive content, you're really gonna have to wanna support those creators that you listen to. So discovery in Brew is also kind of different. When you first get this set up, you'll get a Tinder-like interface with some podcast suggestions that you can swipe left or right to either subscribe or not. And then on the homepage, every time you open up the app, you'll see some new episode releases, which you can swipe left or right onto to either download or skip, which is interesting. There's also a Discover tab, of course, to find new shows. This one features some top charts, which I don't really like the look of and don't find very functional. There's a place to sort through the small library of Brew originals, and then there's some recommendations from topics you might like. The way these recommendations work is kind of interesting because when you select one, it starts auto-playing a short clip to give you an idea of what you want to listen to or not. It's just a quick preview, which is actually a pretty unique feature. The Now Playing page is pretty nice. The focus is mainly on the play controls, of course, and also a cheers button, which is kind of like a like button. And I'm not sure if that means that creators get a tip when you press it, or just tells them, good job, I like this content. All your standard extra options are hidden, which is actually kind of nice. There's less clutter, but there's your sleep timer and the speed adjuster, among a couple other things. There's also a car mode, which makes the buttons huge, kind of like what you get on Audible, but I would much rather just have an actual CarPlay app. One thing I really like about Brew's interface is that it defaults to continue listening up at the top on the home screen. So you can easily finish listening to episodes that you didn't have time to finish earlier, and they also don't get lost or forgotten. So Brew is interesting. As someone who creates content myself, I can appreciate people thinking up new ways for creators to make a living. Will it take off though? That remains to be seen. So we're gonna transition now from talking about new apps that you've never heard of that are very cool to some cool older apps that are just kind of more conventional that maybe you have heard of, but I'm gonna cover what I think about them. Because really, if we're having this discussion about podcasting apps, and if you're ready to go all in on podcasts, get the most out of them, then these have to be part of that conversation. And what better place to start than with PocketCast, which I'll just tell you right now, I feel like has the most balance when it comes to design and features. It's got everything that you traditionally would want in a pretty good design. It can feel kind of plain to me, a little bit vanilla at times, but it's hard not to recommend this if you're serious about podcasts because it does so many things so well. For starters, I love the home screen, which is just your podcast screen, because not only is there a search bar up at the top to search through your episodes, which is epic, but you can completely change how your podcasts appear. Like right now, I have it sorted by episode release date, and I have it with smaller icons, which lets me see more of my podcasts and understand what's been recently updated. Oh, and you can also turn on badges for each podcast just to see how many episodes you've missed out on. Why I like that is because it's not just static like other apps. It changes, it's dynamic, and it keeps things a lot more interesting and maybe helps you remember some podcasts that you forgot about. When you're ready to listen to a podcast, then you head over to the filters, to the new releases, and then you can swipe right on each episode to add it to either the top or bottom of your queue, which PocketCast calls up next, and that appears underneath the Now Playing screen, which is very convenient, and when you're checking it out, you can then drag and drop to rearrange your episodes, which is a must-have. The Now Playing screen is super straightforward, but it does have lots of customizations. So you can really fine-tune your play speed. You don't have to just go 2 times or 3 times faster, you can go like 2.3 times faster. And of course, you can also trim silence or do a volume boost for noisy situations. There's a sleep timer, and you can also favorite episodes to reference them later, which is awesome. Something I really love here, something I use, are the per podcast settings. So if you click on a podcast and click on the gear icon, you can then set defaults for each podcast. PocketCast has an alright Discover page. I think it's pretty generic, and you'll mostly find stuff that you'll find featured in other apps. But there is a cool profile tab, which will show you how many minutes you've listened to, how many minutes you've saved, that kind of stuff. Again, if you're really going to get into your podcast and take them seriously, then you'll love the ability to create custom episode filters. Oh, and I should mention, just in case you haven't noticed, there's a dark theme. The real icing on the cake here for me is that PocketCast is available not just on your iPhone, not just on your iPad, not just on your Apple Watch, not just in CarPlay, but there's even a browser version if you want to listen to this while you're at your desk. Next up, we're going to talk about Overcast, which I included here because so many people love it. It's so popular. The thing is, it's not really my favorite, and it doesn't have to do really at all with the features. It's really more about the design, which I feel is a little bit clunky. But I should mention, it does look a lot better in dark mode. So you open Overcast and you're greeted with playlists at the top and podcasts underneath, which I can't say that I love. Basically, if you're not creating your own playlist, then it's not going to be too awesome. The now playing screen is also kind of odd to me. In order to access the playback options and the episode description, you actually swipe left or right on the cover art. But once you get there, you'll get the options that you'd expect, like smart speed, voice boost, and sleep timer, and Overcast can remember your preferences per podcast. Oh, and unless you pay $9.99 a year, there's a little ad that appears at the bottom of the screen, which obviously isn't optimal. There is a section in the settings called Nitpicky Details, I kid you not, which lets you change all kinds of options that other apps won't let you, but it's not necessarily stuff that I particularly care about. I do like that you can import podcasts from other apps, which makes switching a little bit easier, and searching for podcasts is definitely quite a bit quicker here. There's also a bit of a social aspect here, so you can connect your Twitter account to see recommendations by episode or by podcast, and I actually found that to be pretty useful. Otherwise, though, the discovery page is just about like you'd expect. Last thing for Overcast, I definitely like being able to search within podcasts for specific episodes, and it's great that you can add some Siri shortcuts too. I saved the app Castro for last because it has a really unique way of sorting through episodes. Castro has an episode inbox, which kind of acts like notifications for new episodes, so you check your inbox, you see if there's anything you like, and then you add it to your queue from there. So you could use it like this. If there's shows you're always going to want to listen to, you can just have them automatically drop into your queue. Otherwise, you can sort them out in that inbox. The design here takes a little bit of getting used to because the play controls are glued to the bottom of the app, and the actual app buttons like queue, inbox, library, and search are all above that. I actually don't love the now playing screen, which is functional, but definitely not pretty. But you can access a lot of the options there for free, like the sleep timer and playback speed, although voice enhancement and silence trimming are locked unless you want to sign up for a subscription, which costs $9 a year or $3 a quarter. If you do sign up for a subscription, you'll also get some other options, like being able to change the app icon, which, I don't know, I'll let you decide if that's worth it or not. There is a night mode, and there are per podcast settings, and it's pretty cool that you can change the interval of skipping forward or backwards from the default of 30 or 15 seconds. And again, I'm glad to see some Siri shortcuts integration. The discovery page is kind of sadly simple here. It's just a list of categories that you can sort through. So which app am I gonna stick with now that I've done all this research and testing? I really do love the Listen app, but I listen to a lot of podcasts in the car, so not having CarPlay support is the main deal breaker for me there. In light of that, I have to say I'm going to be sticking with PocketCast because it's just so well-rounded and available literally everywhere that I'd ever want to use it. Now, these podcast apps can really make your podcast pop, but today's sponsor can really make your photos pop. Pops will let you turn any video into 1-second video prints where you can rotate the card to see the movement. And this works with snaps, with boomerangs, with Apple's live photos, and just regular videos too. And it costs just 99 cents for a mini pop or $2.49 for a classic pop. And Pops can also print some really cool glasses-free 3D prints using portrait mode photos shot on your iPhone, And I got myself this huge 3D print for the studio, and it looks awesome. You can get these really cool 3D prints for just $2.99 for a classic, or for $19.99 for this larger size like I got. Your Pops orders show up in really nice packaging, and the app is anything but boring. I actually had a lot of fun testing it. So check out Pops using the link down in the description and save 15% with the code DailyTech2019. Well, that's it for this video. Let me know what you thought down in the comments or over on Twitter or Instagram, where you can find me. I'm at DailyTech, spelled Daily T-E-K-K, in both of those places. And as long as you're in the mood to upgrade the audio content on your phone, then check out my Apple Music video, which I made not that long ago, which I'll also link up down in the description for you as well. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.